Let me get a message in Discord. Alright. So, our drip marble decals have dried. I peeled them off the lids. Now we just have to decide which portion of which one we're using, trim them, and apply them. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is deciding which decals we're putting on my nails. And we're going to do that in the way that I typically do. Let's change the focus a little bit here. There. Pardon my hangnail. By putting a decal up against the nail that I want to use it for, and then using a little pair of little scissors to trim around the nail, because my nails are not the same width. As they come forward, they get wider because more of the nail is exposed out of the flesh of my finger, I guess. So they end up flaring a little bit, but the C curve doesn't make them visually flare. But if I just cut little ovals, it won't work. So the first thing I'm going to do is find some portions that have a large enough design to be able to show up on my thumb well. And this one here shows promise. It's got a lot of detail in this part of the design. So what I like to do is kind of press the polish against my nail and kind of visualize what the design would look like there. This one has a little bit too much of the green straight smack through the center at that angle. So let's turn it a little bit and see how I like it at the other angle. I'm thinking I might want a little bit less of that chunky brown. Maybe some more of this over here. But that leaves this whole area kind of open. So let's scoot it down a bit. I like that pretty well, going across my nail like that. So I'm going to get my little scissors. And sometimes I use them to cut and sometimes I use them to push. When I'm using them to push, I have the blades shut together. But it just allows me to kind of get down all the way along the edges and break the polish a little bit before I go in to trim it. Because as you trim, you kind of lift the polish up and it helps you to kind of see where you're aiming for, if that makes sense. Okay. Now the tip doesn't have to be completely trimmed off evenly, because we can clean up the edge of that after we actually apply it to the nail. And if you trim it too close at this stage, sometimes when you're applying it, you have a little bit of a gap there, which we would be better served to avoid. So I'm not just going to drop my scraps all over the place though. But then we're going to go around the cuticle shape, angling the scissor this way as much as we can to keep as much of the design around that edge as we can. Make sure we aren't cutting anybody short. Now there's a possibility over here for a pinky possibly if we stretch it, so I'm not going to get rid of that entirely. I'm going to set it over to the side. But that is the basics for our first nail. If you peel them up too wet and you try to stick them on your nail like that, they will stick and not want to come off. So I would advise, oh, bits, thank you, a little bit like overnight drying time possibly to prevent that. These aren't like super, super, super dry. They still have a little bit of flexibility and pull to them. But high praise. You know, they are dry enough that they're not gonna stick. All right, so that's the thumb. Let's look for the other thumb to make sure that they are going to pair well together. Looking at all of my options. Some of them are better than others, obviously. Like this one is too blurred together. This one's not blurred together enough. And on the thumb, we want to be able to showcase more colors if we can. This might be a good possibility. Some of these ones where there's just a little bit of subtle nuance between a couple colors are good for smaller fingers like the pinky. Let me look at these ones too before I call it. This area here might be good as well. Or this, it's got some similar wiggles as the other thumb. Whoops, it went sliding right off the little tray. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to put this actually down just on the little stone that inspired it. Look. There it is. It blends right in. That actually has a little bit more of the brighter green than some of the other nails. Okay, so let's take a look at this and see how we like it on the thumb. I'm feeling like it might be good for a middle finger as well. If I pull it across this way a little bit more. I kind of want to cut off the end of that shape because it's looking a little bit phallic, and we kind of don't really want that, right? If it cuts off the end of the nail, it has less of a look to that. Yeah, similar vibe. It's inspired by this little coaster here that I was talking about last week that I found at Home Goods that didn't have the set of coasters with it. So, hi Mom, hi Dad. Anyway, I just didn't. This doesn't have enough of the light brown in it, which I could get more of if I pulled it up higher this way. That looks all right. I wouldn't say I'm wowed by it, though. Let's try the other one over here with the wiggle. You see this wiggle here kind of has a reminiscent feel to the wiggle on the first piece. Okay, we got a lot of action on this side of the nail and not so much on this side of the nail if we do that placement. Let's try and turn it a bit this way. We got a very funky pattern if we go that way. Let's take a look with the other thumb next to it in the orientation that we have cut. This one's feeling pretty vertical. This one's feeling pretty horizontal. I usually like to try to keep them in a similar mood. Let's turn it this way. Let's scoot it down a little bit. Okay. That's all right. Maybe the other direction. Oh, drip marble. You should go check the VOD if you're curious. I dripped the drips onto a plastic lid and then I swirled it around. Oh, you did, Mom? Cool. Or Dad, or both. Swirled it around so that we got the swirl. Colette, I think, is the first person to have done a dry marble in that exact manner a couple of years ago, and I've done multiple drip marbles since then because I like them a lot. I feel like we're losing this little personality of wiggle on this corner, but I don't want that brown blob there. This brown blob here. We want to keep that off the nail while keeping the wiggle on the nail. There we go. I don't know. I like the wiggle, but I'm feeling like it might not be the best part of it. I could get that wiggle on another smaller nail without having to deal with some of the other shapes around it. Let's see, what else can we look at? This one here, I had a thought might be good. It's got quite a bit of swooping going on. We scoot it this way a little bit. Or, ooh, we could go this way. I like that wiggle. Then we still get the green in the corner. I like that. Let's put it next to the other one. Obviously, no two nails are going to be the same with this technique. And I'm looking more for color balance across the whole hand than I am about color balance between necessarily two fingers. I do get some green there. I'm getting more of the lighter green. That's all right. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah. Okay. Let's get the scissors. I just started watching the Great British Baking Show on. Boy, doing this left-handed is a little bit tricky. On Netflix. I've had a lot of people recommend it to me, and it's so nice. I started with the season that's marked as S1, even though it's at the bottom of the list of things on Netflix. But then the way that they were talking about one of the contestants, she's the youngest ever to be on the show and all this stuff, it sounded like it wasn't actually the first season. So then I looked it up. Apparently that is season 5, even though it's listed as series 1 on Netflix. So I'm kind of starting in the middle, I guess, but I don't think it really matters because each season has its own contestants, right? Okay, I need to go around the cuticle edge, and then we can deal with the tip. Again, angling the scissors away so that we're getting as much design left as we can. And then I'm actually, since there's an imprint there from where my nail was, I can cut the tip with my other hand. That'll make it easier to go around here. Again, leaving a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so there's my two thumbs. Just because of the curve of the scissors, mostly, and trying to get the right angle and turn it around. There's more design on this that I can use on another nail. Not any over here though, so let's rip that little tagaloo off and put that down. Okay, so let's get into some of the other fingers. Middle finger is the next widest, so we have to consider some wider designs. This one has some good swoops here going. It's a little bit brighter of the green, so I'm going to try it on this hand so that the balance is continuing to be maintained. There, that's good. I like that straight off. I'm not going to move that. I like that. Again, really just kind of pressing down into the sides to make sure that we're getting design to go all the way down and around. And sometimes that will break the edge for you anyway. Something about the angle of this, the blades aren't coming quite together the way that I want them to when I do it that way. So I am going to follow my imprint, do a little guesstimate. Okay, there's the middle finger for this hand. And you can see that it brings some of the brighter green that this thumb has over into the other hand. Okay, so we got some middle finger. Okay, so then we need middle finger for the other hand. We had talked about possibly using the wiggle here. We do it like that. It doesn't really catch the whole wiggle though. Like that. Or should I bring it this way and have the end of it off? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Sorry, concentrating. You see how the scissors are working so much better when I do them with my right hand? Like they actually are cutting. For some reason when I'm using my left hand, they're not cutting properly. For some of the nails. Okay. So that's the middle nail for this hand. And you can see it's a little bit more subdued. Not hugely subdued, but a little bit more subdued than the one from the other hand. Okay. Alright, so let's get to thinking about ring fingers and index fingers then. Oh, okay, bye Mom. Have fun with the puzzle. This one, while the colors are not necessarily the most exciting in all of the parts of it, there is a lot of good subtle color here, and some good wiggle on this side, which I could, you know, totally get onto this right here. Do you see that? We got some good wiggle there. There's no dark in that section, so it's possible that that will feel out of whack with the other nails. So we'll compare them all as a set, but this section is worth cutting out. Again, really giving myself some generous edge work. And then at the tip. And nope. Yeah, it doesn't have any of the dark brown, but we'll see how necessary that is. Okay, and then the other wiggly part over here that did have the dark brown. Got a little bit of the light green in the corner there. I might do for the other index nail. Keep them from the same, cut them from the same cloth, as it were. You see that? It's not wanting to cut. It's really bizarre. There we go. And the angle for that's all weird. Okay. Okay. Alright, so there's the other index nail. And there isn't really that much of interest left on this, so I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to bring this one back onto one of the trays. Okay, so then we need ring fingers. This area here has a lot of good color going on. Let's try that. Cut two very similar shapes, actually. If I could get one on one ring finger and one on the other ring finger, it'd almost be like an accent. Possibly. No, I didn't. Possibly. Pull it a bit. Not quite getting it on the nail though. Let's turn it this way. See if that gives us a little bit more. Come down. I mean, the idea of that is interesting, but I don't know if I actually like it in practice. I think I like this area over here better, with some more of the marbly, stripy sort of a feel. right? Yeah. Are you using your new book presses? I know you said earlier you were waiting for glue to dry when you were texting me. Am I even in camera? I'm sorry, I'm trying to cut these out, and to be honest, I'm not really thinking about the camera too much because I'm just trying to make it happen. Okay, so there's the ring finger for that hand. Okay, good. This whole area is nothing. Okay. So then I need another ring nail. This one's a little bit too muted. This one's a little bit too blocky. This one's a little bit too muted, possibly, unless I am able to capture maybe that area. Well, this is the one I did first. It's a little stiffer than the rest because it's been sitting here for another week. And it's a little bit more muted also. Kind of like that shape. If I can get that shape on the nail. Scoot it up a bit. I want that little curve. In nails, it's an argument of millimeters. Let's turn it a little bit. I like the shape on that. We'll see if the colors stand up after we take a look at everything together. It's not sticking to my nail as much as the others, so what I'm going to do is mark, okay, where I want to cut. Before I apply these, I'm putting down, oh yeah, they're in a similar vein, haha, but they're a little less loud. There's not as much of the bright green in them. Okay. Now that little bit of green on the end is deceiving. I'm going to pull it sideways a little because it's just a little more narrow than I would have liked. There we go. Okay, so overall, right, this one, oops, stupid thing, where did you go? Fell down in between my crossed knees. Hang on. I gotta, there we go, I found it. Okay. If you're looking at all of the colors together, trying to get it not shiny for you there, this hand, oops, this hand had more of the cream tones on the ring finger, and that one then does too. That little bit of green is not showing up there. So this one has more green here and on the thumb and on this finger. This one has more green here and a little bit on the thumb. So I need more green on the pinky here, and I need a more subtle pinky here if I'm going to keep things balanced and keep the nail choices that I've already made. Otherwise, I'll have to swap out some things. So I'm looking for a brighter green swoop that could fit on a pinky. Possibly something here. Oh, that's supposed to be on this hand. Excuse me. Do something more like that. I want some of the brown to come in if I can, but I also don't want to lose too much of the bright green. No, I don't think that's going to work. The pattern is slightly too big for the space. Let's find another one. This one has quite a lot of the bright green as well. Looks like there's a big bubble right in the middle. That would be alright. I'm not sold on it though. I don't think this is the one I was just looking at, is it? No. That one's a little more subtle, but it has some interesting detail right there. This one might go on the other pinky. If I get both of those like that. Yeah, I like that. That's not to say that we won't be looking at other pinky options, but I'm going to earmark the ones that I notice. Okay. Trim off that little do hanger. Okay, and okay. So for that hand, we got more brown on the thumb, more brown on the middle finger than the other ones. This one has a little bit of a clear line of the brown, but it's relatively subtle overall. This one has some bright green with less of the brown. This one is the most muted of the 5. Okay, so we were saying on this hand we need a brighter green on the pinky to be able to bring more green into the design overall. This one is slightly less green and slightly more brown. And the thumb is as well. So it's possible that we might want to change the index nail, potentially, if we, take a look at all of them together and decide, oh no, plus I just folded this one. Sometimes decals, when they're too wet, will stick to themselves, but this one I think is dry enough that it didn't. Whew! Bullet avoided. Okay. So we're looking for a relatively bright pinky color, like we were talking about before. So let's see. Maybe. Yeah, that's something I'll think about. That doesn't have distinct design, so that's a nobody. This one is not bright enough. I like some of the swirls in there, but it's not bright enough. This one, not bright enough. This one, let's see if there's anything shape-wise that's good. Again, I know we were looking at this one a minute ago. I like that as a stripy design, but it doesn't really go with the way that the rest of the manicure is looking. But there are like drip marble designs that end up looking more swipey like that. No. No, not bright enough. No. Let's look at this one again. that gets a little bit of the brown at the top, and it actually has a similar wiggle sort of a feeling as the other pinky. I'm going to cut that as an option. I know the curve is curving the wrong way. I don't care. This is just a rough cut. I'm coming in. Gotta switch hands. Go around like that. Okay. Okay. So, whoops. Oh my goodness, this angle. You guys, I want to show you, but I also, when I tip it up too much to get rid of the glare, it messes with things. Let's see. Can I get rid of the glare? That way. Is that okay? Can you see that? Okay, so this. Okay, so you're saying, oops, oh goodness. Sorry. Turn the right way. Let's try it with the indexes swapped. We have to check and actually make sure that that works because one of my index nails is narrower than the other. And yes, I do like the way that that looks. If we're just talking about color balance, I think that that works well because then this one and this one are slightly less bright. This hand has a flow. Yeah. Let's make sure that they fit though. Yeah, that'll fit. Good. And then the other side. I don't remember which way I had it. I guess I get to decide now, hey? And that way is a little bit more swoopy this way and this way. Gosh, get on there. We are going to be applying polish to the nail before we put these on so that they stick, obviously, a little better than this one wants to right now. I think I like it the other way better, with the swoop coming down like that. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and look through and make sure that we don't have any other like really tantalizing options. And if not, then that's what we're going to be doing. I do really like this section here. Right here. But it's a little bit too stripy, I think. You see that where it's got the double wiggle? But compared to the other nails, I think that would not mesh. It's cute though. And then this one here possibly for the pinky. On the other hand, we've got some swoops here. Let's see. Let me turn it a little bit. Like that. as compared with the one we have now. No, I think the one we have now goes better with the overall flow. So those are the ones we're going to do. Alright, so let's get these little trays out of the way. Okay. And the first thing we're going to do is wipe down our nails with acetone and apply base coat. Let's make sure we have enough acetone in here to get the job done. Alright. Okay. And second hand. There's a couple of little hangnaily things that I think are going to mess up my cleanup. So let me get them off real quick. Pardon me for not being on camera. I need to get a good angle on this hangnail. There we go. Plus, I don't think hangnail removal is the most visually attractive thing that you could be watching anyway. So, you know. Hello. Okay, and we've got a little bit of dry skin down in there too. I'm actually going to use these to trim that because I don't think my cuticle trimmer is narrow enough to get down in that little space and grab that little bit of dry skin. Okay. Sorry. Again, I need a better angle. I'm going to use my cuticle trimmer on that little bit on the edge. There. That's a little better. It just doesn't want to come off. There we go, I got it. Goodness. Stubborn little piece of skin. Okay, so let's go back in now that we've touched that nail a whole bunch with our skin oils and make sure it's wiped down with acetone again. Okay, base coat. We could just put the decals down on the base coat. We could also do a base color to make sure that there aren't any edge unevennesses or things like that. And I tend to do that. So I think that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to do one coat of Ireland, I think, the pale muted sort of green. Zoya's website, by the way, their little sample picture for Ireland is like a complete not accurate. It looks like an olive green on the little hand shot that they have. Like all of their pictures that other people post on Instagram and like tag the color and those get featured at the bottom when you scroll down, that part of the page is really much more accurate of a description for each of the colors on the Zoya website than the official picture. So if you're looking to get some Zoya, I would recommend really scroll down and look at that other section to get a better idea of what the color looks like, because there are many colors on the Zoya website that are that way, where it's just the color that they put in the actual picture. It's like photoshopped somehow. Like they don't actually take a picture of a hand. They just like photo swap the color into the picture of the hand. And it doesn't look like it looks in real life at all. I've had people talk about like, oh, I thought that color was pink based on the Zoya website, but it totally looks purple, you know, or like this one where it's much, much lighter in person. So if you look at the other pictures that other people have posted, those are much more accurate. Other people talk about the winter being really dry and bad for their nails. But here the winter is mild and humid, and so it's actually the summer when everything is drier and hotter that my nails feel more dried out. That dry skin is still right down here under the nail, trying to be a thing. Okay, that's better. Okay. Too much base coat. This stupid pinky always gets flooded. Sorry, pinky. I think I've only successfully not flooded it like twice ever. But that's okay. Okay. That side's dry enough. We're going to do one coat of Ireland. And actually, you know what we should do before we do that is neaten up the cuticle edges of the nails that we are applying. The neater that this is when it's applied onto your nail, the less cleanup you have to do. You can just kind of line up the edge. The tip we are going to trim a little closer once it's actually adhered, but like the cuticle edge can totally be cleaned up a bit. This thumb wants to be very square right now, but I am going to round the corners a little bit. Okay. Obviously, there's going to be some cleanup and adjustment once it gets on the nail. But this, oops, goodness, dropping stuff, makes it easier to line things up when you're placing it too. And we said we're going this way. So this is the cuticle edge. Sorry, I'm focusing. Okay, that looks all right. Yes, good. Okay, and then this one. Oh no, I dropped it. Coming down this way or coming down this way? It was coming down this way, so this is the cuticle end. I actually think I need to trim just a little bit more there. Are you still watching Breaking Bad, Praise? Okay. You did. Okay. Did you see that they are making a show called El Camino about Jesse Pinkman that's coming out in about 6 weeks on Netflix? What?
A movie, not a show.
That's true. It's a movie. It's a movie. They're making a Breaking Bad movie about Jesse Pinkman. It's called El Camino. No, I haven't. No, I haven't. That's more of a prequel, though. I've heard good things about it, but I haven't watched it yet. This one I actually want to move up the nail a little bit. I gave myself too much room at the cuticle when I trimmed it, and if I line that up just the way it is, I'm going to lose some of the blue at the tip of the nail that I like. Okay, like that. So that gives me more there. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, and then the ring nail. What? No. You talk about the Better Call Saul? It's a prequel, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Again, this one's a little bit drier because it's older, because I did it last week. But we do have a little wiggle here. We want to keep the wiggle. That one's actually relatively even. I think probably because I cut it mostly off of the nail. And then the pinkies. It won't, there we go. It didn't want to come off of the stone. Okay, and then the other pinky, which I believe we had going this way. Let's see how it looks this way. Just, you know, for giggles. Tricky. Tricky call. I think I do like the original way better, so that's the way we're gonna do it. Again, these are slightly stretchy, so I can stretch them sideways before I apply them, which I think I am going to need to do a little bit on some of these. That curve is less than spectacular. Yes, I had forgotten about that. That's really funny. I like the complexity of the characters in Breaking Bad. Like there isn't anyone that you completely like and there isn't anyone that you completely dislike. There are elements of each character, or almost every character, that you like, and elements of them that you are kind of like despising. So it's interesting. We're just going to do one coat of this just as a kind of background, get everything sticky, make sure that if it gets filed away from the tips slightly too much when we're doing that, that it's not just plain naked nail that's showing through. This color does have good opacity for color this light. Yeah. He's definitely a little bit impulsive, you know. Just watched, I was saying yesterday. Yeah, he very prideful, right? He lets his ego ruin his life. And definitely holds grudges. Again, based on the pride issue, right? You can see that there's a little dried bit of one of the decals stuck on the nail here on the side. I'm going to try to get that off real quick, just because it's preventing there from being a smooth surface to work with. There we go. And then I'll go back over that with. There. And then Skylar, right? She's not a saint either. She's got a lot of selfish decision making that goes on. I mean, she has elements of her that are good too. Walter Jr. is a sassy little smart aleck. But he has a, you know, not a bad general desire for the people he cares about. And Hank, right? Definitely stubborn, and Marie's very stubborn too. That causes a lot of issues. Marie becomes more complex as you watch, right? At first you're like, who would ever like you, you annoying person? And then as the show goes, you start to realize that she does have some redeeming qualities. Okay, so I'm not going to go to the other hand first. I'm going to go straight into applying these because I want to apply them while the polish underneath is still relatively wet. So we're gonna set these down and press. Make sure they're well pressed in place. I'll trim the ends after I've pressed them all on. Voila. Great. And then the middle finger. We're gonna have to obviously, like I said, trim the tips, but gosh, this green one wants to stick. There we go. I was pushing down to try to slide it off like I would on a table, but it just made it press down and not want to let go. Okay. And the pinky. Okay. So now that all of those are applied, we're going to clean up the front edge with, well, a couple of things. We're going to do a little bit of trimming here to get it a little bit closer. And then we are going to file some of that off as well, and or melt with acetone, depending on how close to the tip we already are. Okay. We're already getting a better idea with the trimming of what the end design will look like. I can trim off a little more actually on the thumb. I go from the underside. I'm sorry, I just bumped the camera with my glasses. The decal on the pinky is slightly thicker. That's okay though. Okay, I think that those are close enough at the tips that I'm going to do a little bit of melting with acetone to seal them around. I don't really like filing them if I don't have to, because it removes the wrapping of the tip that I did with the under color, and I find that it tends to make them chip slightly faster. So I try to avoid that if I can help it. Okay, we will do the acetone cleanup part after we apply the decals to the second hand. So in order to do that, we have to apply a layer of Ireland first. Good gracious. These ones here in the middle, they're too central to really pick off these little bits of dried polish that are stuck on here. So I'm just going to pretend they're not there. They're going to get covered up anyway. Sorry, I don't think that was on frame very well. Okay. And pinky. Again, I'm going to, as usual, push back this part of the pinky. Make sure that he's not trying to encroach. Got a little bit of dry something. The beginnings of another hangnail there. Okay. Okay, so then starting with thumb. Again, making sure we've got all of our edges. This one is a little bit narrow, actually, so it's a good thing that we have our base color down, because we need to scooch things around a little bit to make it look even. There we go. I mean, we obviously will do some shaping around the edge as well, but that looks fine. I need to stretch my leg. Ooh. Okay, index nail. Going down the nail. Okay, and the middle nail. I want to make sure I give myself a little stretch on this one first, because I did trim it a little bit closer at the tip. And I want to make sure that it's going to cover where I want it to cover. There we go. I had been debating possibly doing a just like 3 nails with the marble and 2 nails plain, but obviously I didn't end up doing that. Okay, this one is slightly dry because, as we've discussed, it's the older decal, so I'm really going to make sure I press this one into the new polish so that it can soften the under part of it a little bit and help it to incorporate. What is going on there? There we go. It was like a bubble that was not wanting to lay flat. You see how curving the cuticle before you apply them really does help with the cleanup? It's much closer along the sides. It doesn't need as much help later. All right. Okay, so let's go around and trim the tips. I want to be able to look at it from the underside. But I also want it to cut, and I think I have polish on the scissor blade. There we go. Or maybe not. Boy. That angle. There we go. It just doesn't want to cut on this part. I just decided that it was a no-go. There. That's better. This one doesn't have a ton to trim off because it was relatively close in size to begin with, which does make it a little tricky when you're applying because you have to make sure that you put it in exactly the right place to cover. This one has a lot to trim. Good gracious. That angle is just the worst for these scissors. There we go. That's all right. It's gonna need a little bit more cleanup than some of the other nails, but that's okay. All right. And pinky. Okay. So what we need to do is go in with some acetone. I'm actually going to use a cotton swab just because I have the ability to keep more acetone in the tip of it. And we're just going to kind of press the tips and melt them down around the edges of the nail a little bit. I know I'm risking getting fuzzies in it, but if it's wet enough and I swirl it like this first, I don't think it'll be too bad, and I'll be able to do one nail without having to re-dip a whole bunch of times into the acetone. And I am going to go around with a brush around the edges of the nail as well. And just make sure that everything is nice and sealed in. And not just that the edge is clean, the acetone will help to kind of remelt the decal and seal everything down onto the nail really well. Oh goodness, what did I do here? That was the scissors. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay, so this nail obviously got wet enough that when the scissors pushed up against it, it kind of pushed the color. So I'm just going to try to push it back into place. And we might have to do a dot or two of polish to do a little surgery over this area. Gosh. Yeah, just a couple little dots. I need one there and I need one there. That one is, you know what? I'm just going to try to do this and a little brush. Just a very small one, praise. Nothing super major. Okay, I'm going to go in with a little bit of this. Make sure none of my other nails had that happen. No, okay, it's just the one. Okay. We're just going to do a very tiny little dab of that, and we're going to go snip, snip, snip right across. There. Like that. And again right here. There. Okay. Once that has top coat on it, I think, you won't be able to tell that that happened. Sorry, I think I'm too close to the camera for you to see. But I feel like I was able to successfully save that. It's a little bit lumpy looking because there's no top coat on it, but it'll smooth out. I think we'll be okay. There's a little bit of missing polish right at the tip of there where I cut slightly too close to the edge as well. Just right there. That I think I can improve with a little daub of polish. Yep. Let's do the edge cleanup on this hand while we're at it. Cleanup brush. It's down here. Okay. So we're going around the edge. We have to kind of be careful not to smear the color from one area of design into another area of the design. And there isn't really that much cleanup to do because we shaped the edge. So really, we're just kind of floating some acetone along the edge here, making sure that the edge of the polish has been softened so that it will stick down onto the nail really seamlessly. So really what I'm doing is putting the acetone next to the polish, not on the polish, and letting it touch the edge of the polish to help soften it. Okay. Now this corner does need a little bit more rounding just right over here to make it consistent and symmetrical. So I'm going to do that real quick. There. This nail just needs top coat. And then it will be good to go. Like right here, I don't want to remove the top layers of polish because there are other layers of things at the edge there. You gotta be really careful. Okay, that one's just ready for top coat too. Middle nail. This is the one that had that boo-boo. It also has a hangnail, which is only very slightly painful with the acetone. It's not like super tender. There's a little bit of polish stuck on top of my decal here that's interrupting the brown. Probably got transferred when I was trying to pat the nail into place, unfortunately, so I'm going to add a very, 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 very teeny tiny amount of brown right there so that that line doesn't get interrupted. There. Okay. Okay, now that nail only needs top coat. Again, we're just going kind of next to the nail. We're not actually trying to remove any polish if we can help it. We're just trying to soften the edge of the polish that is there so that it adheres. And some of it might get removed on the way, but that's not the goal. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep it as close to the cuticle as we can. Okay. Now that nail just needs top coat. One more on this hand, and then we're going to do cleanup on this hand. Okay. I think this pinky does need a little bit of shaping here at the cuticle, just on this side to make it look a little bit more symmetrical. We're going to take off just a little bit right here along this curve. There we go. And that looks pretty good. Right, that one just needs top coat. So this hand just needs top coat and top coat cleanup. Otherwise, it's good to go. Alright, so let's do cleanup on this hand. We got to get our little Q-tip action going on the tips first, right? Make sure they're swirled so we don't get any hairs stuck in there. I'm going to add a little bit right there of Ireland on the tip. Right there. Okay. Good. Okay, cotton swab. Yeah, this one is the one that's going to need the most softening. There's a lip kind of on the edge here. The decal gets slightly thicker right there. I'm hoping that top coat will be able to smooth that out. I'll just have to be a little thicker right there with the top coat to help create an even curve. Okay, and then the pinky. Alright, so we're going to go around now with the cleanup brush. Same thing as the other hand. A little bit of shaping on some nails is needed, but mostly we're just sealing everything down. Making sure that it is adhering to the nail. This corner is one of the corners that needs a little bit of shaping. Just kind of curving it a touch. There's a little bit of a gap on the dark color here too. Not a big one, just a little itty bitty sort of a tear from when I was pushing things around earlier. Okay, that looks good. Trying to make sure there isn't a fuzz stuck in there. Okay. Sorry, that was not in frame. 3 more. I'm trying not to let myself push this corner up on accident, which did begin to happen, so I was just pushing it down again, making sure that it's staying where it's supposed to stay. I'm not taking too much. Because it has been a habit of mine in drip marbles, I don't know why, but on this particular nail to take too much off around the cuticle. And I've avoided doing that today, so yay. Alright. 2 more. Really making sure we're sealed. The polish underneath has softened this quite considerably. That's why we put down the polish before we put down the decal, so that it would help it to adhere to the nail. But of course, this also really makes sure that the edges, which are the place that lifting will happen first, make sure that the edges are sealed down. Alright. We are going to go under the edge real quick again. Pat, pat, pat. Make sure that's sealed too. Good. Alright. We do have that little stubborn thing still happening there though. Apparently these scissors might need to be replaced because the snipping that they are achieving here is not ideal. There. I got it with a cuticle trimmer. Okay, so pinky is the last one here. And then we're ready for top coat. Let's close these other polishes, make sure that we're not going to spill anything on accident. I don't see anything on the pinky that needs to be touched up, so we shouldn't need them. Okay. Really making sure that the cuticle line is even. This pinky's doing better than the other pinky this week. Good job, left pinky. I mean, right pinky. Left pinky is the one that's not cooperating as well on the cuticle shape. So good job, right pinky. There is a hair, but I think it's actually embedded in the marble, so I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to let it be. Okay. That looks pretty good. So it's time to move on to top coat. Now the question is, well, what top coat do I want to use? That's a good question. Let's see, what do I have over here? I'm just going to use Glisten and Go. Glisten and Glow. That's what I've got handy. Okay. We are being generous with our top coat and making sure to cap the tip. This is especially important with a decal like this because we really want to make sure that the end is sealed in. Oh boy, I don't think that was on camera. I'm sorry. We are going to take some of the excess polish out of the cuticle area though before it dries. We'll get the last parts that are on the skin with another pass with a cleanup brush. Okay. All the way around. And on this side, all the way around. There is a little bit of a bubble there, but I'm not going to let it bother me. Okay. This is the nail that we had to fix that rip in. But I don't think that will be super obvious once the top coat is set, right? I mean, I don't know. It's not a big enough unevenness to bother me, really. I mean, it is now my least favorite nail, but I don't hate it enough to take it off and do it again, and once the top coat sets, it'll be even less noticeable. Okay. Ring nail. This edge right here got stuck on my skin. Look at all that dry skin. Yucko. That's what cleanup's for, though. Okay. Okay. All right. So we need to do cleanup with the cleanup brush to get the top coat off the skin, but other than that, this hand is done. Feels very much like a topographical map. Okay. Hand number 2, finger number 1. Let's actually move the camera a little bit because I want to be over here. All right. There's a little bit of polish there, the top coat that ridged up near my cuticle, and I scooped it, but that will settle as it dries. There we go. There was a little bit of fuzz stuck in the tip of that. I was trying to get out. That nail was the nail with the hangnail last week. Okay, 2 more. And then clean up. I don't know if I'm going to leave them glossy for the whole week. I might buff them matte after a day or 2 of wear, but I think I'm going to leave them glossy for now. Do you see how the top coat evened out that ridge at the tip? It's good. I don't have to fuss with it too much to make it smooth. I got a lot of top coat on my skin. Alright, one more. Okay. So then, oh, yeah, that's fine. Oh, well, the reason I'm thinking matte is because this is not super glossy, and that's the inspiration. But leaving them glossy for now is fine. And if I want to make them matte later, I'll just make them matte later in the week. But I like the way they look glossy for now. After I get off stream, I'm gonna probably watch some more Great British Baking Show. And you know, obviously I've got to feed myself and stuff too. I'm getting hungry, so I might cook first and then watch. Sorry, I'm just getting rid of the bigger bits of top coat that are on the pads of my fingers and on the palm of my hand. Okay. I think this nail might be my favorite, this thumb. There's something about the subtleties in the way that this part is swooping that I'm really enjoying. The other nails are good too, but anyway, let's get to top coat cleanup. I'll come tomorrow instead of today, Praise. I also need to take a shower. But I'm going to do that later this evening. Big Cat hasn't been here all stream. She's been off doing her own thing. Shiny, shiny, shiny. Okay, so this nail had a lot of dry polish left on the skin. There we go, that's pretty good. Okay, that hand just needs cuticle oil. Second hand needs cleanup though. Oh goodness. My phone landed on my elbow. This needs a little bit of a push between the cuticle and the polish so I can get in there with my brush a little better to separate the two. There we go. Okay. Middle finger. Oh, okay. Wow. And Big Cat peed on our bamboo bath mat that's supposed to like not be attractive to cats who like to pee on soft stuff. But I was reading that rubber feet or rubber bottoms on mats can sometimes attract that behavior. And the bamboo mat did have rubber feet on it still. So we're just not going to have a bath mat anymore. And I'm going to put a towel down when I want to take a shower so that I can step on something, you know, not directly on the floor when I'm coming up out of the shower wet. And I actually am enjoying it better than the bamboo mat that we had been using. So, you know, there's that. Yeah, because of pheromones. It mimics cat pheromone smell. She doesn't mind. She doesn't try to do the one in the kitchen that has a rubber back on it, probably because it's further away from her litter box. Because the litter box in the bathroom, you know, is near the bath mat. They're only a couple of feet away. Okay. I'm pretty pleased that I was able to use the trial one from last week and it turned out fine. It wasn't too dry to work with. So yay for that. Yay. One more. And then cuticle oil, and then we're done. Okay. Let's use the pear scented cuticle oil today. Doesn't that sound lovely? I'm just gonna drip onto this hand and then we're gonna kind of spread the oil onto the other hand because we don't actually need more than the drips that I dripped over here. Okay. So if you're not streaming today, then that means I can't host you, which means I need to find someone to host because we're done. I'm going to zoom you in real quick after I finish rubbing the cuticle oil in though, so you can get a real good look at each nail. That's fine, I can just go look for somebody else. Hang on. Let's do some close-ups through the oil because it hasn't fully absorbed yet. I should have done it before I did the oil. Sorry. Okay, so let's focus up here. Okay, so here's the thumb. Am I too close? Yes. Okay, there we go. There's the thumb. The index nail. The middle nail. You can see a little bit of the repair there, but it's not like abnormal compared to the rest of the nails. There's the ring finger and the pinky. I like this little, looks very agate-y here on the side. And the pinky. Okay, and then here's the other thumb. And the index finger. And middle finger. And the ring finger. And the pinky. Alright. Yay. Let's go see who's on. I'll put my hand here so you can look at it while I go look. It's looking like Bob Ross. So let's do that. And I will see all you lovely people next time. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.